Hey YouTube, welcome to another Esquirlesco Capiva video. Get ready, it's chess time. It's upside down, they're facing off again. Raphael, who do you mean? Nakamura versus Magnus Carlsen. The Americans' rematch against Magnus in the Titan Tools tournament is fresh out of the oven. You'll also understand what's happening in the Argentine championship. Faustino Uro is having a blast over there, but he played in round 8 against the Argentine international master. Julian, you'll understand everything. Now, of course, the headline that's making waves in the chess world, it's what Naka did against Magnus. Now, let's look at this game, which I'll preview for you. The winner of this game was the Titan champion. And I don't know if you've noticed, but in their recent matches, Magnus has been having a positive score against Naka. I know this might go unnoticed by the general public, but Magnus has been destroying Nakamura. Now, I need to be realistic. Look at Naka's updated rating. He has a much higher rating than Magnus on chess, with Naka having had the highest rating on the platform for a long time. And of course, one day this was bound to happen, and it did. I'll show you. Naka came for the rematch, and Magnus risked everything. I'm telling you, hold on to your seat and get your popcorn ready. Let's start the battle. Chess is always a fight. Naka dropped the bomb, and wow, a Sicilian. The Norwegian went for the Najdorf here. This is even more ambitious than that against Equat. Only if Magnus played a French, but he hasn't reached that level yet either. Naka plays the most aggressive line. The bishop g5 line breaks the structure. Magnus plays a technical move, defending here with the queen. And now, I told you, Naka came in with fire in his eyes. Right now, it's a very dangerous line, Magnus. He plays the variation with queen b6, which is extremely aggressive. Also, after queen d2, Naka sacrifices a pawn. I need to highlight this. It's very dangerous and high risk. What is Magnus doing? This line is very dangerous to play as black. But, like I said, Magnus is taking risks, gaining confidence against the American. Now, after rook b1 and queen a3, notice that Magnus lost a lot of queen moves in exchange for a pawn. Meanwhile, Naka is already preparing. Look, there's the castling, so his king is already developing the pieces. They're playing development. See, I've been doing Duolingo. My English is getting better and better. Here, knight moved to c6. Magnus proposes some exchanges, and Naka accepted. He exchanged on c6 and now castled. Careful, because all of Naka's pieces are playing Magnus. He wasted moves with the queen and hasn't developed yet. He has to speed things up because if he plays bishop to e7 to castle, now Naka is already starting to try to collapse. The king of course, of Magnus. Notice that at this moment the exchange happens because it was already threatening to break the structure, and after recapturing, Magnus speeds up the castling. He has to protect his king. And here comes the move bishop e3, and be careful. This move is tricky, and Naka's idea is to win. Magnus's queen may seem otherwise, but he wants this move. And when here comes the move bishop b6, your queen is trapped here and it's about to be lost. It's that quick. Notice that Magnus plays the move d5 as a way to defend against this bishop b6 idea at the end of the line. And notice that Naka went for it. He played rook b3 queen to a5, and now it looks like you're going to lose the queen, but you don't. Naka played the precise move king h1. Notice the reading and dynamic tactics. Raphael, why didn't Naka win? Magnus's queen strategy was unbelievable. The problem with this move is that you get bishop c5 check, and now you're forced to trade here, and you're not going to get a queen or anything. Notice that Naka played the tricky king h1, where he actually threatens to win Magnus's queen. Be careful here. Magnus is up a pawn, but Naka's development is much better. Magnus has to defend by the skin of his teeth. He plays bishop b4, cutting off. Look at the connection between the rook and the b6 square. And at this moment comes the move a3. There's a dilemma. Magnus can't move the bishop back or he'll lose, especially the queen. It's the endgame, and Magnus has plenty of time. He exchanged on c3 to prevent that variation. And after the recapture, of course, Magnus goes into the endgame here. Notice again that Nakamura has the bishop pair, is down a pawn, but has better development and threatens to take on c6. Once again, Magnus keeps defending. He plays rook to e8. It's a tactical dynamic defense because if you take here, you give up a piece. Magnus, of course. Does Naka see that both bishops are here? Under attack from the rook. So he already defends one of the bishops, and now Magnus keeps defending. He controls c6 and prepares to bring the a rook into play. At this point, Naka brings the bishop back to G1, keeping his pair of bishops. Even a pawn down, his pieces are active, so Magnus also needs to get active and makes his move. Knight to E4 is Naruga's first active move, attacking the rook. The rook moves to E3 and now knight to D2. See what Magnus wants to exchange. He has an extra pawn and wants to head into an endgame, where he'll try the Norwegian trick. Well, at this moment, Nakamura plays an ambitious move, an active move. He defends this rook by doubling on the file. Notice that here he wants to keep control of the file. But in this line, Naka sacrifices another pawn, Raphael. As Magnus shows you, he plays E3 and takes the F5 pawn. Raphael, I already know the story. 2 pawns up. For Magnus, things are going to get complicated now. Be careful. Naka still has both bishops and active pieces. Notice that Magnus's rook still isn't in the game, and the American puts a rook on the 7th rank. It's really scary. Magnus moves his knight to C4 to increase pressure. The American responds with rook to C7, targeting C6. And here, proposing this exchange. You can take on A3, but then you lose here and the bishops become active. The center is open. Magnus holds here. He doesn't want to let anything fall. He also proposes to exchange the rooks, heading into an endgame where Magnus has 2 extra pawns, but be careful. Naka still has the pair of bishops. That's going to happen. Naka exchanged on C8, not afraid of anything. At this point, he must defend the pawn, so he plays bishop to C5. Look at the power of the pair of bishops in the center, which is a bit more open, so they can move around piece by piece. Magnus plays bishop to F5, attacking the defended C2 pawn. And Naka said, calm down, you need to control things, because here things can get out of hand. I'm down 2 pawns, and Naka played bishop to E2, sacrificing another one, but clearly trying for a draw. Raphael, what do you mean a draw? Keep an eye on Naka's strategy. Magnus takes another pawn and is now up 3 pawns, so be careful. But now Naka manages to get an opposite-colored bishop endgame, where, although Magnus has 3 pawns, he has a pair of doubled pawns. This only counts as one since one can't get past the other. Naka is saying that everything was very beautiful, very elegant, but this position should head towards a draw. Let's see what happens. Naka centralizes the king, and Magnus also readies his king for play. King F2 centralizes. Bishop to P4 saying your king won't get far. I'm keeping an eye on G2. Naka moves the bishop to the center, controlling the pawn on C3, and now king to F7 bishop on C3 is blocked. And G5. There it is. Magnus here will want to expand little by little on this king side. It's not too threatening yet. Naka plays G3. Both kings centralize. Naka attacks the bishop. Bishop moves to D3 to defend, then bishop to B2. What Naka is saying is, I'm just going to stay put. I have more time, I'm faster, and here, if you take too many risks, you might even get yourself into trouble. Magnus is advancing pawns, playing F5, bringing the bishop to C3 and aiming for H5, trying to push a pawn as his strategy. In this endgame, Naka just stays put, saying nothing is happening. The bishop on E4 stays put, and now the bishop moves to D5. Notice that Magnus, he changed the formation, he put the bishop looking this way and holding everything together. At this moment, Naka stays put, and here Magnus plays the engine move. Raphael, I expected nothing less. Which F4. Notice that in this move, Magnus gives back a pawn, still in the opposite colored bishop endgame. This should be completely drawn. The capture happened, and the idea is that Magnus doesn't want to take here. He now advances, and what he's saying is that at the right moment, he can push a pawn. It's still not very scary because the king is very close. Bishop E1 is played by Naka to secure the advances here. All the controls, king F5 centralizing, and at this moment, bishop G3 is there. Naka keeps controlling. At this moment, he has, of course, 2 pawns down, but he still has that doubled pair. On the C5 file Magnus plays, he takes away some squares from the king here and now. Naka stands motionless, pretending to be a statue so Naruga won't catch him. Look, Magnus sacrifices another pawn. Raphael, what's going on? That's what Naka was wondering. He said, I'm going to take it. It's ripe. I'm going to pick it. And at that moment, notice that his action is just one more pawn for Magnus. But he has a strategy. He plays H4, since, for now, Naka's bishop no longer controls that square. And what's the idea behind a move like this? He wants to prepare G3. Notice here, Naka starts bringing his king. And be careful, if you play a move here that seems natural like this, controlling everything, you're lost. Amazing, right? You get g3, and once you take it, you can't hold on. But the pawn promotion is impressive. The problem that Magnus posed in the dilemma, Naka defended. But when he does that, he gives the pawn back. And Magnus was careful now because at that moment, Magnus has 2 extra pawns again. Still, the opposite colored bishop's endgame. You can play it at the right moment, but a move like h3 requires caution. For now, it still doesn't work. In this position, see what Naka is going to do. He plays bishop d2, Magnus responds with king f5, and incredibly, any engine shows Magnus is winning. Raphael, I can't believe in an opposite-colored bishop endgame. Man, this is desperate. See, if you play the move the engine suggests, which is a4, you're lost, it's incredible, because you get c4, and look, if you play a5 here, you can understand the collapse of the white position, because the king is going to come in and you can't hold everything. Look how wild this is. If you move the king just to c, you get g3 again. When you take h3, you can't keep it. And here, you try to hold, of course, the king's entry, but you lose there on the little passed pawn on the king's side. What did Naka do after king f5? Naka tried to set up a trap, a dirty trick, hoping that Magnus might have made a pre-move, a move like this or a move like that, and he played the move. Bishop g5, sacrificing the bishop, is pure desperation, Magnus. He realizes Naka wants to capture the pawn, and if it falls, the game is a draw. But Magnus didn't have any pre-move set and took this bishop. And once again, there's nothing to be done in this position. Naka resigned this game. I know it's surprising what's been happening in this brutal rivalry between these two players. It's something out of this world. Magnus has been winning every game, he comments. Down below, if you were expecting such a scary result like this, I'm curious to know. And Faustino's game at the Argentine Championship just finished. Today, Faustino played round 7 with the black pieces against the strong and young international master, Julian Vilca. And in this position, Julian, playing white, look, the white pieces bring the rook to the file, and there was brutal pressure along the file. And Faustino had 49 seconds on the clock. Time was also one of the villains in the decision of this important move. The engines say Faustino's only move is king to e6 to keep the file closed, but he ended up making this serious mistake, which is not easy to punish. With the white pieces, he captured on f4, but Julian found the precise move. The brilliant knight to g3. Notice that this move, of course, allows an exchange, but it's a very advantageous exchange for white. Faustino captured, and now, after white recovers the piece, the knight is under threat, and the black king is the villain. He's very, very vulnerable. There's no way to defend. Faustino tried to defend the knight, but now he falls into a mating net. The rook and knight advance, but the king searches for a non-existent refuge. What about after rook to e7 in this position? Faustino resigned this game because there's a mate threat with rook to g4, and even worse, if Faustino tried to defend against rook to g4, there's another mate being threatened, which is rook to e4. End of the game. Watch the moment of resignation. And of course, there's no way to hide the frustration that Faustino feels at this moment with this defeat. A tournament he was leading, where everything was going well, but that's okay. Faustino still has a chance to become national champion. And Flavio still has a chance too. Flavio has one. Flavio still has a chance. Flavio a chance. Flavio still a chance. Flavio still. Flavio still. Flavio still has a chance. Flavio's chance. Flavio still has 3 goals. Flavio still has a chance. Flavio still has one. Can he make it in this situation? Let's see. I'm sure he's going to take a risk and try to achieve this. Looking at Magnus's accuracy, I see that, of course, Magnus was more precise than Nakamura, and it's incredible. But Naka's boldest move, f5, led to trouble in his game against Magnus. Later, the pawn fell on f5 and Neruga came out ahead, as he mentions below. What do you think about all this, about these news? I'm curious to know if you like the summary of the analyses. Don't forget to like and see you in the next videos.